Hi, this is Guy Barker. Welcome to Herbi.org. I'm going to give a demonstration of the settings available in the Herbi Writer handwriting development software to make using Herbi Writer more personalized for your students. To customize the settings used to make Herbi Writer more personal for your students, click the Settings button here. The Herbi Writer settings window that appears starts off by showing the Student tab, and the Student tab allows you to have the student's name appear in the Herbi Writer window, and also to build up a list of students who are using Herbi Writer. I'll talk more about the students' names and list of students in another video. At the bottom half of this window here, down here, is a list of handwriting levels available. So I will click that, and we see 3 levels available: beginner, intermediate and advanced. Herbi Writer will start off in beginner level, and at beginner level Herbi Writer will consider a letter to be correct pretty much so long as it's the same size or around the same size as the sample. It can actually look very different from the sample and still be considered correct, and the idea is that by doing that the student will get positive feedback and will want to use the software. Over time, as the student's handwriting skills develop, you can move on to the intermediate and advanced levels, where the student's letter must be a closer match for the sample before the letter is considered to be correct. So for example, I will cancel this window. So to start off with, I will write a very large letter A, and Herbi Writer consider that to be incorrect. Now I will write a smaller letter A, and Herbi Writer consider that to be correct. But now I'll actually write something that looks more like a letter E, but it's still the same size as the sample, and Herbi Writer considered that to be correct, when clearly it didn't look like the sample. But this is beginner level, where the idea is the software is encouraging the student to want to use the software. If I now change the level to be intermediate, if I write a letter that is very different from the sample, Herbi Writer will not consider that to be correct. And I have to write something that's a much closer match. And now if I go to advanced, if I write that large letter that I did a second ago, Herbi Writer no longer considers that to be correct, and I have to write something that's very close to the sample before Herbi Writer will consider it to be correct. So I'll switch back to the beginner level. Okay, now back in the settings window, the next tab is the layout tab, and this allows you to control where some of the things that appear on the screen do appear on the screen, whether it's above other things or to the left or right of other things. The top checkbox here says move the background lines to the bottom of the sample letter area. So you'll notice in the background here the lines are at the top of the screen. If I check this checkbox and click OK, the letters move down to the bottom, and this can be very helpful if you're using Herbi Writer at a smartboard display screen, which is very large, and smaller students might not be able to reach the lines if they appear at the top of the screen. So I'll bring out the layout settings again. I'll clear that, so the next time you click OK, the lines will move to the top of the screen again. Now, by default, when Herbi Writer runs, the student is to write on the right side of the computer, and this isn't helpful for left-handed students. So for left-handed students, you might want to click this box here and say that you want the area where the student writes is to the left of where the sample appears, and so that means the sample appears to the right of the student writing area. So I'll check that. Okay, so now the student writes on the left side of the screen and the sample appears on the right. So now I'll bring up the settings layout options again. If you want, you can actually have the area where the student writes to be above or below the area where the sample appears, and that might be handy if you have a portrait orientation screen rather than landscape. Landscape meaning that it's wider than it is tall. Also, you can actually change particular things like where Herbi appears, or where the score appears, or where the student name should appear if the student name is showing. So say I want Herbi to appear on the other side of the screen, I'll do that, and the student is still set up to be the left-handed student, so we'll write over here, but Herbi Writer will show Herbi in the left side of the screen. So I'll move Herbi back, and I'll say the sample letter should appear to the left of the student writing area. Okay, so I'll bring up the settings window again, and the third tab is the Customize tab. This allows you to select different sets of letters to be shown. So for example, say I want uppercase letters to be shown. We now have uppercase letters. And again, I'll bring out the Customize settings here.